Hello from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Scott Foltz alongside Jason Dye. Those stories plus a 131-year-old military rivalry returns to New York.
And conference champions will be decided this weekend. All that coming up after this. You're watching Sports Talk on CFC, so stick around.
Well, rivalry week certainly delivered plenty of excitement. Starting off with the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss finished off Mississippi State, but the Bulldogs made them earn it. The Dogs took a 6-3 lead in the first, but wouldn't score again until the fourth, while the Rebels scored a touchdown in both the second and third quarters and two more in the fourth. The Bulldogs scored two TDs of their own in the fourth, plus a two-point conversion, but the two Rebel touchdowns earlier on were the difference maker here. 31-21 Ole Miss to cap off a great season for the Rebels.
Absolutely great season for Matt Corral and Ole Miss. I think probably one of the most improved teams in the SEC this year.
Yeah, they really showed me something all year.
Mm-hmm.
The Apple Cup returns to Pullman as Washington State ran over Washington. The Cougars put up 10 in the first while holding the Huskies scoreless, but Washington came back in the second, putting up 7 while holding State to a field goal. After the half, the Cougars put up another 10 in the third and 17 in the fourth, while the Huskies were only able to score 6 in the fourth. 40-13 Washington State. This one wasn't even close.
No, and defensive woes continue for Washington, who's traditionally strong on defense. Washington State amped up, ready to go, ran all over them.
Mm-hmm. The Heroes game was a close one, but it didn't start out that way. Nebraska scoring a touchdown in each of the first 3 quarters while holding Iowa scoreless for the first and only allowing 2 Hawkeye field goals in the second and 1 in the third. 21-9 Nebraska, but there was still 1 quarter left to play. Iowa came roaring back to life, blocking a punt for a return, then getting a safety off a grounding in the end zone penalty on the Huskers, and a 44-yard Iowa field goal tied it at 21. A final Hawkeye touchdown made it 28-21 Iowa, and a pick by the Iowa defense with 45 seconds remaining sealed this classic.
Iowa's defense coming up big again. Another heartbreaking 7-point loss for Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. North Carolina and NC State slugged it out in a classic ACC rivalry. NC State scored twice in the first while keeping UNC scoreless for the quarter, but the Tar Heels answered with 10 of their own in the second and held the Wolfpack at bay, but NC State took a 14-10 lead into halftime. Third quarter, the Tar Heels put up 14 and held NC State to 7, but momentum shifted again in the fourth as the Wolfpack scored 13 and held UNC to 6. Final score 34-30 NC State.
Season timing is everything. North Carolina was hot when NC was not, and flip-flop, and it showed NC State.
Yep. And any way you look at it, this was a great game.
Absolutely was.
The contest for the Governor's Cup was a lopsided one as Kentucky came out full speed and never slowed down. The Wildcats scored twice in each quarter, although the second score in quarter 2 was a field goal, while holding the Cardinals to a single touchdown in the first and 2 in the fourth. Louisville played their best, but in the end, 52-21 Kentucky.
Louisville have been great the last couple games, but obviously just outpowered by Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky showed why they were undefeated for their first half of the season here. Just ran over the Cardinals. Florida continued their win streak in the Sunshine Showdown, knocking off Florida State after both teams had a slow first half, each team only scoring once. The Gators in the first, the Seminoles in the second, but things picked up after the half. Florida put up 10 more in the third while holding FSU scoreless, but Florida State scored twice in the fourth to Florida's 1 touchdown. But in the end, the Gators continue their streak, final score 24-21.
You know, I really thought this was Florida State's game to lose, and it really was. And
For a second, it looked like they were coming back in the fourth.
Florida busting apart at the seams. I mean, just dismantling it and find a way to come back or to win this game. So just hats off to them.
Yep. The battle for the Commonwealth Cup was a hard-fought one down in the Old Dominion. Virginia took an early lead against Virginia Tech, scoring twice in the first, while the Hokies found the end zone once. The second quarter saw a shift in momentum as Virginia Tech scored another touchdown and added a field goal, but the Cavaliers had a touchdown of their own, taking a 21-14 lead at the half. Virginia Tech crossed the goal line again in the third, while the Cavs settled for a field goal, and that was the last time they scored. The Hokies got a field goal in the fourth and a safety and extended their all-time series lead to 60 games, 29-24 Virginia Tech.
never count out Virginia Tech and the
Nope.
Lunch Pail Kids, man. I really didn't think they were going to win this game, but hats off to them.
Yep, like you said, they brought their lunch pail and went to work.
To work.
Yep. Paul Bunyan's axe was contested in the Big Ten West as Minnesota hosted Wisconsin in a game that would also determine the division champion. The Gophers scored first, kicking for 3 in the first quarter, but the Badgers responded with 3 of their own, plus a touchdown in the second. Minnesota kicked another field goal in the same quarter and went into the half trailing Wisconsin 10-6. Minnesota roared back in the third, finding the end zone twice and holding the Badgers to 3. The only score in the fourth was a Gopher field goal, giving Minnesota the game and Paul Bunyan's axe at 23-13.
Didn't see that one coming.
No.
I really thought Wisconsin was going to run all over them, but hats off.
Yeah, the way the Badgers have been playing towards the end of the season, they looked almost unstoppable.
Yeah, PJ Fleck and Minnesota just
Yep.
rowing that boat. They got
Keep
it
finding
going.
ways.
Yeah.
The Civil War in Oregon was like a tale of two games. Oregon came out swinging, scoring twice in the first while holding Oregon State to a field goal and shutting them out completely in the second, while the Ducks added 10 more to go into halftime with a commanding 24-3 lead. The second half belonged to the Beavers, though, as they scored a touchdown in the third and went for 2 but weren't able to score. The fourth quarter was where the action was, as the Ducks scored again, but the Beavers answered with a touchdown of their own, but again failed to convert afterward. A second Beaver touchdown for the quarter, and the third time going for 2 was not the charm for them. The Ducks scored 7 more, and the Beavers answered with 6 of their own and went 0 for 4 on 2-point conversions for the day. Final score 38-29 Oregon.
Man, absolute awesome game.
Yep.
Awesome game. Yeah, hats off to Oregon. I mean, they've had a heck of a season.
Yep, and State put up a fight against them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, even if they had kicked the points, they still wouldn't have made up the difference. They still would have lost, even if kicking a single point afterwards. But 0 for 4 on 2-point conversions, that really hurt them.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Iron Bowl certainly lived up to its name as Alabama and Auburn took it to each other full throttle. After a scoreless first quarter, the Tigers found the end zone in the second and kicked for 3 in the third, all while shutting the Tide out until the fourth quarter. Alabama scored 10 of their own in the fourth to send this one into overtime. 1 touchdown for each team later, and we were in 2 overtimes. Neither team could punch it in, so both teams kicked it in, and it was off to the third overtime. Bama got 2, and Auburn answered with 2 of their own, so here we are, 4 overtimes. The Tide were able to hold off the Tigers on the first drive and ran in for 2 on their possession. 24-22 Alabama in a nail-biter.
I'm starting to think Alabama's just a little bit overrated here. I mean,
and this was an Auburn team without Bo Nix.
Yeah, no Bo Nix, and you
Yep.
can't put them away. Come on. What's
Yeah.
going on? What's going on in Tuscaloosa? I want to know.
I don't know, but from the looks of things, nothing good.
Yeah.
It truly was bedlam as 2 Big 12 powerhouses went at it in Stillwater. Oklahoma State came out strong in the first, crossing the goal line twice while holding Oklahoma to 1 TD. Momentum shifted in the second as the Sooners put up 17 to the Cowboys 10. After the half, Oklahoma shut out OK State in the third, the Sooners putting up 9 more that quarter themselves. But the fourth was all Oklahoma State, the Cowboys rallying and hanging 13 on their in-state rival. Final score 37-33 Cowboys.
I've been saying it all year.
You've been saying it all year.
Oklahoma hasn't had the defense to go up against Baylor, which I said, hey, Baylor was going to beat Oklahoma, and I said the other team was going to beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma State.
Yep.
Got to have defense. Oklahoma State, Cowboys.
And Baylor beat them too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, golly, and then of course, what happens? Lincoln Riley, gone.
Yep.
Gone, jump ship.
Mm-hmm.
Jump ship.
We'll get more on that later.
Mm-hmm.
A game that we really don't want to talk about in Columbus, but after 5 long years, Jim Harbaugh has finally beaten Ohio State. Michigan's victory breaks an 8-game streak by the Buckeyes and marks the first time Ryan Day has lost a Big Ten game. I said last week they would have to take the crowd out of it, but the crowd was in it for the whole game. Michigan scored first and held the Buckeyes to a field goal in the first, but Ohio State took the lead in the second with a field goal and a tremendous catch by Garrett Wilson. Michigan responded with another TD to go into the half with a 14-13 lead. After the half, the Buckeyes had nothing in the third, while the Wolverines put up 10 more, and the fourth quarter saw 2 Buckeye touchdowns. They went for 2 after the second one and didn't get it, and Michigan scored 2 touchdowns of their own in the fourth. 42-27 Michigan, and the Buckeyes' playoff hopes died on a snowy day in Ann Arbor. Now, we've made no secret that we're both Buckeye fans, but we try to keep it professional for the show and be objective in our analysis and opinions that we share on here. But it's our show, and when we see shenanigans, by God, we're going to call it out. No swearing, don't hit anything, don't break anything.
You know,
Go.
I first of all, this is Ryan Day's first loss in 29 Big Ten games.
Yeah,
29.
that's impressive.
That's very impressive. Saw a lot of banner, a lot of trash talk.
Yeah,
Ryan Day's
always
trash.
is.
Stroud should be benched. Blah 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 blah. I am so tired of hearing it. If you didn't watch this game and all you saw was the final score, really just zip your lip, because I just don't know if you're watching that game. I'm not saying Michigan didn't do things well in this game, but the one thing they did well, hold. I don't know how you put up 300 yards on Ohio State and not hold.
Yeah.
On 300 yards on the ground and not hold. I'm going to say it. I'm going to stand behind it. I don't get it. I understand you're at home. I understand that there's certain favors you get at home as far as not getting certain calls pointed out against you, blah, 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 blah. I literally watched, third, fourth quarter, DeJuan Jones for Ohio State not even hold a guy. I saw a Michigan player flop down on the ground that called a hold against Ohio State. I don't understand how that's a hold, but yet tugging up here on the jersey and literally having the jersey and holding him back is not a hold. It was going on all game long.
Or tight end going around the defensive end's neck.
And that all started when that little scrum happened where the Michigan guy grabbed our guy by the ankles. Obviously, shouldn't have ripped the guy's head off. A helmet off. I get it. But come on. Then the next thing you know, we got flagged for personal foul and put Michigan down at the 2. So it's first and goal, Michigan at the 2. You got Corn going around the left side, and I look and I see a referee. I see a referee standing there just at the back of the play, got a straight field of vision. I see the tight end for Michigan, number 83's got his arm wrapped up around the helmet of the Ohio State defender with the ref standing right there and no holding called. Come on, man. It already hurts enough, the fact that Ohio State lost to Michigan here, but do you have to really hold in this game? Did you really have to hold? Congratulations. You held.
Never mind that and the pass interference penalty that wasn't.
Come on.
The guy was on top. Was it Garrett Wilson? The guy was on top of his
the guy
shoulders.
was on top of him, for Pete's sake, and no call.
Now, had that been an interception, that was an impressive play by Michigan secondary. That popping in there like that. If he would have snatched that, that would have been an impressive interception. I don't like to say that, but it's true. However, guy was on top of Garrett Wilson.
Absolutely. Because I really don't think that Michigan secondary was going to be able to hold up. I think they did all right.
Yeah, and their pass rush did get to Stroud.
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson
Credit where it's due.
And Ojabo was fantastic in that game, and the Buckeye offensive line obviously wasn't holding up the way they should. But
because they weren't holding.
They weren't holding either. So, it was going to be easy if Ohio State held Aiden Hutchinson, because he's a great player. He's going to do great things in the NFL. So is Ojabo. But
they were two tremendous pass rushers. They're able to get around the outside of that line very quickly.
Yeah, and vice versa. That Michigan offensive line, Ohio State's got dudes up on the front end too. So I'm kind of figuring, how did that not? Because early in that game, Ohio State was kind of starting to get home.
Yep.
To Cade McNamara.
Figuring it out, getting into the backfield.
And then it just all of a sudden, it was just kind of like it started fading off. And the more I started watching that line, you could see they were winning the battle in the trenches when they got you.
Yeah.
When they're holding you.
They showed a replay of Haskins making an impressive run. And just look at that great block he's got there. I looked, great block. He had a hold of the Ohio State defender's shoulder pads.
Yeah. But it's all over now. I mean, just live it up, Michigan fans, because clock's ticking.
Yep.
I guarantee it.
All right. This week, conference champions will be crowned. We're going to tell you who we think they'll be, and you're going to stay here until we finish. Beginning with Conference USA, Western Kentucky will take on UTSA in the Alamo Dome. The Roadrunners lost their last game, but are still 11-1 overall, while the Hilltoppers came into this game with an 8-4 record, but a 7-game win streak. These two teams already played back in Week 6, and UTSA won by 6, but I think this one could go either way.
Yeah, I think it could too, but I really do like UTSA this week, 37-34.
You're picking the home team?
Yep, I'm sticking with them.
San Diego State will host Utah State in the Mountain West title game. The Aztecs' only loss all year was to Fresno State, while the Aggies dropped 3 to BYU, Wyoming, and Boise State. Will the Beehive State boast 2 champions this year, or will the Aztecs conquer like their namesakes of old?
I'm staying with the Fighting Brady Hokes here. I like San Diego State in this game, 31-21.
Appalachian State will face Louisiana for the Sun Belt title. The Mountaineers' only conference loss has been a 41-13 beating from the Raging Cajuns back in Week 7, while Louisiana is unbeaten in conference play. Have App State fixed their flaws, or will the Cajuns repeat their victory?
I'm going to be honest here. I think it's going to be a great game, but I'm going to stick with App State. I like them 28-24. I think they get it done.
Out in Middle America, Northern Illinois will face Kent State in Week 10 rematch, where the Golden Flashes went over the Huskies in a great back and forth. Kent State winning by 5 and handing Northern Illinois their second of 2 losses for the year. Will history repeat itself, or can the Huskies avenge their loss with a championship?
I think they get it done. I like Northern Illinois 38-35.
Perhaps the conference title game with the biggest implications will be the American Athletic Conference, as Cincinnati will face Houston. The Cougars lost to Texas Tech in Week 1 but have not lost since, while the Bearcats remain unbeaten and currently hold a spot in the college football playoffs. Houston has nothing to lose but a conference title, but Cincinnati has so much on the line here. A conference title and the chance of being the first Group of 5 team in the college football playoffs. Will their Cinderella story continue, or will Houston shatter their glass slipper?
I think Houston comes out swinging first and gets a first score, maybe score a field goal, something like that. But you're going to see the composure of this Luke Fickell team, and I think Cincinnati gets it done 30-20.
Close one for
yeah.
them. The ACC hasn't had much of a showing this year. Wake Forest and Pittsburgh are the only 2 ranked teams in the conference, and they'll face each other for the championship. Both teams have nearly identical records, 10-2 overall, but the Demon Deacons dropped 2 conference games to Clemson and UNC, while the Panthers' only conference loss was at the hands of Miami, Florida. Wake Forest will host, and they're undefeated at home, but Pitt has not lost on the road.
I still like Wake Forest in this game, 38-33. I think it's going to be a good back-and-forth battle, honestly.
Out west to the Pac-12, Oregon will get a second shot at Utah when the Ducks meet the Utes again, this time for the Pac-12 championship. Utah embarrassed Oregon 38-7 just 2 weeks ago, and I don't see this one being any different. Do you?
I think it will be. I think Oregon's going to be a completely different team. I think after, losing to Utah the way they did, obviously defense wasn't there for Oregon. I think they need to really clamp down. They're going to clamp down on that Utah run game. And I still think Utah is going to have success running the ball, but I really think Oregon comes out really more aggressive in this game. And the question is, though, for Utah, can you bring the same fight as you did the last game? I mean, it's hard to repeat that kind of energy. They say lightning doesn't strike twice. And I'm going to stick with that. I think Oregon gets revenge here, 30-24.
Let's see. No surprise in the SEC as the seemingly unstoppable Georgia Bulldogs will take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama was locked into this game even before the Iron Bowl, but the way they struggled against Auburn, I don't see them taking down the juggernaut that is Georgia.
No, and after watching that Auburn game, Bama's going to have to bring it all, and you better do it in a hurry because this Georgia team is dangerous.
Yep.
I really think Bama, in order to beat Georgia, they're going to have to give the Dogs an old taste of their own medicine, and that's defense. And I just don't feel like Bama's really got it here.
No.
The Dogs are going to make this a one-dimensional game. They're going to completely take out the running game for Alabama. They're going to make Bryce Young. They're going to force him to throw the ball. I think that's where you see this Georgia defense is going to shine. Mm-hmm. And I think the offense just does enough for Georgia. Georgia wins 24-14.
Almost everyone thought that Oklahoma would be in the Big 12 title game, and there is an Oklahoma team that will play for the conference championship. Oklahoma State will take on Baylor in a Week 5 rematch, which saw the Cowboys go over the Bears by 10. Can Baylor get their win back, or will Oklahoma State prove that they are the better team in the Sooner State?
Yeah, the first meeting was won by Oklahoma State, despite Oklahoma State turning over the ball 3 times. I think that says something about this Oklahoma State team. Oklahoma State responded big time on defense to make that comeback last week against Oklahoma. I think that says a lot there, too. I think this probably is the most complete team in the Big 12. Now, Baylor's offense continued after that loss to Oklahoma State. They continued finding momentum on offense. I think it was a great thing to see. Most unexpectedly, great improvements.
And they beat Oklahoma after the loss to OK State.
And, defense for the Bears has also been a bright spot. But this game will come down to who makes the most plays. I think Oklahoma State, 28-20. I just like them too much. And they earned their spot in the playoff.
Yes, they did. Iowa has regained their place atop the Big Ten West, and they'll take on Michigan in the Big Ten Championship. The Hawkeyes clawing their way back from a midseason hiccup, and we've already said what we think about the Wolverines, but personal feelings aside, can Iowa be the first Big Ten West champion in 9 years, or will Michigan win it their first time out?
This pains me. Iowa's going to have to mix it up against Michigan. Their defense is good. You got to find a way to slow down Hutchinson. You're going to have to find a way to slow down Ojabo. I think it's going to cause Iowa to really turn that ball over when Michigan really starts. Their defensive line's just going to take over. And for Iowa defensively, they have to be disruptive. I mean, despite the holding, Michigan's offense came to play. I think they can do it again. And for Michigan, defense, set them loose. Blitz, 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 rush, rush, rush. I think Hutchinson and Ojabo are going to have a field day in that Iowa offensive background there. I just don't even think this is a contest. Maybe it starts off early, but I like them to win it, 31-17.
Now, Michigan does not do well with tempo, though.
No.
To your first point, Iowa keep it up at tempo, keep going, have 3 plays in a row ready to go, and knock them out and keep that Michigan defense off guard. That's the only chance they have.
Ohio State showed that Michigan can be disrupted defensively if you keep the tempo mixed and just keep
them
going
on their heels, keep them guessing.
But in order to keep tempo going, you have to make plays, and I think that's going to be hard for Iowa.
In 2 weeks' time, December 11th, one of the oldest rivalries in the country will be played for the 131st time as Navy will host Army at a neutral site, MetLife Stadium. The midshipmen have not had their best year, only 3-8, while the Black Knights of West Point have gone 8-3 and look to continue their 1-game winning streak and keep the Secretary's Trophy and the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy, having beaten Air Force in Week 9 in overtime.
Yeah, and Army, I think they really do. They get it done. I think Navy, it's going to be a fight. I mean, whenever you get these military games, it's just so great because these kids don't stop. They don't know any better. You, obviously, being an Air Force veteran, current National Guard, I mean, it's just, you guys don't stop. You guys don't know when to quit.
Failure is not an option.
Failure is never an option, and they play all 4 quarters. It doesn't matter if one was blowing out the other 63-0. It's always 4 quarters.
You keep on going.
Because you know that if you know it, if you give up in that 4th quarter, it's probably not going to bode well for you.
You don't
next day.
No, you don't want to ever just quit.
No, never.
That will break bad for you. And again, inter-service rivalries. We're all brothers. We'll pick on each other all day long. But you take on one of us, you got to take on all of us.
Absolutely. And it's just, even the pregame ceremonies are awesome too.
Yep.
Makes you proud to be an American.
It does. Jason, you had some coaching changes you wanted to tell us about.
Yeah, I mean, wow. There's some big ones. I mean, Lincoln Riley jumps ship from Oklahoma, goes to USC. I think money talks a lot there. With Oklahoma and Texas getting closer to the SEC, Lincoln saw his way out. I don't like the way he did it. But even worse than that, Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Dude. You did the same thing you did to Cincinnati years ago. You broke the hearts of fans. Your team could be on the verge of being in the playoff.
Yeah, never mind the fans. You broke the hearts of your players.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. How do you even explain yourself? I mean, because you wanted to go to the best in the land. Well, you know what? LSU hasn't been relevant since Joe Burrow. So,
and when
good luck.
coaches pull a Rich Rodriguez, referencing what he did when he left West Virginia for Michigan, like you don't bail on your team before the season's over. You just said it. Money talks. I understand that. You understand that. There's business here. This is how the coach earns a living, provides for himself.
Yeah.
Fine. But you don't bail on your team mid-season, not for any amount of money.
I just absolutely hate that. I mean,
Yes, you tell them, okay, I'll sign your contract, but I'm finishing out my season with this team because they have earned keeping me around.
Yeah.
And when coaches don't do that, it drives me up a wall because you're abandoning your guys. So all that preaching that you said to your players at the beginning of the season, it's about teamwork and being there for each other. It all goes out the window.
Yeah, literally.
They heard what you said, and then they saw what you did, and they're going to remember what they saw.
Way to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually got a good replacement. Marcus Freeman, the defensive coordinator, takes over at Notre Dame. I think he's going to do great. I think Washington got a new head coach. DeBoer, I think is his last name. I don't know much about him, but hopefully he can turn Washington around. So.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Jason and I are going to take a couple of weeks off, do some Christmas shopping, and get ready for bowl season, but we'll be back around Christmas time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. You've been watching Sports Talk on CFC.